my ex, 25 female, left me after a cancer diagnosis 3 years ago and wants to be involved in my life and my friends again, 27 male. I'm very conflicted and not sure what to do. Original post: I met my ex almost 7 years ago and we started casually seeing each other around 2018. Our relationship was very chaotic and unhealthy in the beginning for reasons that I do not wish to disclose, but I was at fault. I hurt her really bad and we ended up ruining our friendship. We stopped talking for a period of time and then I finally reached out after almost a year, realizing that I had missed what we had. She was reluctant, but we gave it a go. Our relationship for that period was fulfilling and I was very much in love with her. It felt safe and loving, however, I wasn't very sure how realistic things were. We got back together right before the pandemic started, so there wasn't a whole lot for us to do except spend time together. My ex was struggling a bit with some life choices and what to do next. Her family as well was going through a very difficult period with her parents splitting and her dad moving abroad for work. Her relationship with her mother is not great either. She wasn't in school and was unsure of her career path. I, on the other hand, was doing a dual degree at a very prominent college, a D1 varsity athlete, and was planning on going to an Ivy League school for my master's. I never brought this up to her or made her feel less. I always actively encouraged her to go back to school, which she did. I love her very much and cared about her a lot because she made me feel safe and loved. In July 2020, I started having some symptoms around my groin during training after a bad session and went in for an MRI. It was determined that I had torn my groin, so I went in for an operation shortly afterwards. Before the OR, my doctor did some blood work that came back very skeptical, and during the OR, they found a tumor in my groin. It wasn't cancerous, but they caught it very early, so the prognosis was okay. However, the treatment was not good. I couldn't train anymore and was only working and doing my classes online. 3 weeks after the surgery and after introducing me to her family, my ex comes to my place and breaks up with me, saying the spark is gone. She doesn't love me anymore and doesn't want to work on this. I absolutely broke down mentally and was crushed. She went on to move on within a couple of hours when my friend found her Tinder, and I was devastated. To make things much more difficult, a week later, my best friend from childhood dies in his sleep. I told her we could evaluate things after a month, but I was so crushed and hurt that I ended up cutting all ties. The next few months were mentally the darkest period of my life. Eventually, it was clear to start training again and was doing classes online due to the pandemic, but mentally I was fucked up. A lot of therapy, crying, and mental breakdowns. I moved on with someone else, but that relationship ended shortly because it wasn't fair for her to be put through what I was going through. During this time, my ex was bragging to our mutual friends about how she was really enjoying her slut phase and that she was happy that she left me. She also went and slept with my former best friend, who she knew hurt me very much in my past, and I found out about it, which crushed me. Coupled with her accidentally running into me at some of the spots I frequent, I was very angry and upset. Since then, I graduated with 2 degrees, got accepted into an Ivy League school for my master's, and started a really good job. I healed a lot through therapy and working on myself, even got into qualifying for a major sporting event. Lo and behold, while all of this is happening, she decides to reach recently and tells me how proud she is of me, and then asked if we could talk and have coffee, that she misses her friendship and wants to be involved in my life. Prior to this, she was going around and telling my mutual friends that she was having second thoughts and was thinking of reaching out to talk to me. This all the while she is in a relationship with someone else, and I find that downright disrespectful. My mind is telling me to call her out and tell her to leave me alone, but my heart feels another way. I know she hurt me a lot, but I love her a lot, and I do not know what to do. And now for the comments before reading the update. Skittles Please says, "Bro, have some self-respect. You clearly see the things that she's done to you well enough to put it in writing. How do you follow that up with thoughts of getting back together with her? Don't even call her out. Just block on all channels and move on. Seek therapy because your self-worth must be in the gutter for you to even contemplate letting her back in your life." Llama Wretched Person says, right? Why contemplate getting back together with a person who disrespected him so much? OP, listen to this. Have some self-respect. Don't even think twice. Block her completely and move on. Block and move on. You have come so far. I'm so proud of you. One cancer survivor to another. Remember what happened. Remember the chaos. Remember why you two broke up. Remember that when you needed her most, she left you. She was on Tinder a few hours later. She is currently with someone else and reaching out to you. Is this really a partner for you? She is currently with someone else. Exactly. She hasn't changed a goddamn bit. As soon as she gets bored with OP again, she is going to ditch him. Again. Say whatever 12 says. For some reason, I think the only reason he's entertaining this is because he pulled some BS early on and she forgave him and they made it through the second time. So maybe he could extend the same to her. First, maybe she wasn't smart to take him back, but just because she did doesn't mean he has to accept what she did and move forward with her again. This relationship seems like it was awful in the start, and maybe deep down she didn't forgive OP. Maybe she never truly healed and never felt the trust or loyalty one should feel for their partner, his fault or not. Either way, this isn't a good thing at this point. She showed you, for whatever reason, she's not the reliable, loyal, dependable partner you're wanting, OP. Maybe you did do bad, but it doesn't seem like that's how you function any longer. And was your bad leaving your partner after a diagnosis and then screwing her friend the same night bad? Was it sleeping with her best friend who hurt her bad? I mean, dang, you're not better than her, but you're better than that treatment. Besides, you can't even use the maybe she changed bit because she's in a relationship talking to others about getting with you. She is in a place right now where she doesn't treat people right at all. Doesn't mean that she'll be there forever, but it's your responsibility to guard your heart, and she's showing you at this time she's not capable of giving your heart the proper love it deserves. It will be hard to reject her maybe. Acknowledge that. It's okay. Her embrace may feel good. Spending time with her may be enjoyable. It may seem truly pleasant, but there will be no trust. Until she shows that she can take care of others' hearts, if you'd even want it by then, you should trust a love you deserve will blow this out of the water in comparison is out there for you. What a shame you'd possibly miss out on, either by being with her or inevitably healing from another heartbreak from her that leaves you in a dark place and not emotionally available. Now for the update. I just want to start this post by saying thank you to those Redditors that had some advice and were supportive. I read through most of the comments and I have to say, wow, I did not expect that. Shortly after I wrote this post, I had a breakdown which was not good. My ex triggered me because it brought back a lot of those feelings of abandonment, inadequacies, and feeling like shit. It felt like a slap in my face to leave at my worst and now is wanting to be part of my life when I'm at the highest moment. Luckily, I had support from family, friends, and a therapist who talked me through this period. My family and friend absolutely despise her, and thank goodness for them that I did not crawl back. I read through what I wrote again, and I am shocked at what cognitive dissonance I was experiencing at the time. So after a couple of days, I went back into my journals and read out what I wrote about that experience. It was heartbreaking, to say the least. Someone mentioned codependency and feeling guilt, which is exactly what was going on. I was toxic and not good to her before we started dating, but I did a lot of work to become a better person. I felt emotionally guilty and responsible and thus allowed this to happen. I did truly care and loved her, but what happened post-breakup is not something anyone ever fucking deserves. The one person who hurt me, and she slept with him right after we broke up, that just showed her true colors. I loved somebody who I never knew. Another thing that shocked me is reading over my journal that I had while we were together. The comments that she made about me being fat despite being an athlete and dressing poorly. Some even of the racial comments that she made about how she once mixed babies and fetished me. I am biracial. She even deleted her BLM post the day we broke up too, despite being so much of an advocate for it. This was so screwed up on many levels, and I'm going to need extensive therapy to overcome that. I am at a loss for words and do not know where to begin. So what did I do? I told her in an assertive and kind manner not to contact me again, and that it was disingenuous what was going on. I know some Redditors told me not to do this, but I did not enforce the boundaries post-breakup, and she violated many of them, including following my mutual friends and asking about my well-being, people she never met before. So I had to draw the line on that. She's blocked off everything and it will stay that way. I am never going back to that again. Started full-on therapy again today on a weekly basis and really going back to healing before I can get involved with someone again. Funny enough, I ran into her former friend today and she word for word said, "You can do so much better than that shit." I am going to take that advice and move forward now. Good things have only happened so far in my life and it will continue to get better. Going on to story 2. Patient's boyfriend mad he has to pick up his own Uber Eats. I work in a high-level hospital as an ICU nurse, and my managers are fantastic with staffing, meaning if you have a crashing heavy workload patient, they'll make the other patient you have an easier one so you can focus on the sick one. For a background, ICU nurses have 2 patients, and we specialize in critical thinking, whereas the telefloor is the normal part of the hospital people think about and holds less sick people who don't need as much attention. So these nurses have 6 patients and specialize in tasks and prioritization. So the beginning of my shift after report, I show my face and say hi to my less sick patient who is doing fantastic and just waiting for transport to take her to her telebed. I say I'll be back around 9 p.m. in 2 hours, unless she needs me for something. So this gives me time to stabilize the sick patient next door. Unfortunately, the sick patient in room 1 starts coding, and the team is actively doing CPR, crash cart in the hallway, 3 docs there. Whole team is to try to save this young dude. My team is working on meds, intubating, keeping compressions going, etc., while I'm talking with doctors about what could have caused it. I'm halfway outside the room for the healthier patient in room 2. She sees me through the window, presses the call light, and I ignore it because I have what should have been obviously very pressing matters. Her boyfriend ends up opening the door and standing in the doorway to just stare at me with his arms crossed. Just to give them the benefit of the doubt, she could be concerned about her health. I say, "Is everything all right?" And he goes, and tries to lead me inside. Of course, I only pay attention to him when the docs go into room 1 to brainstorm on their own and assess where to go if we get the guy back. I look back through the window of room 1 and realize I can give them 5 seconds to make sure nothing funky is going on. So she says, "Can you get my Uber Eats order?" It just said it arrived downstairs. I swear I could have had a stroke from high blood pressure at the moment. So I kindly say, "I'm sorry, I'm busy with another critical patient. Could you," I look to the boyfriend who's plopped in the recliner with his feet up watching Netflix on his phone, "go get it for her." And he goes, "I'd rather not." Oh, good sir, what don't you want? You saw the mess next door through the window. Me talking seriously with 3 docs and a hot mess of people outside of your room as we try to save a damn life. So I tell him I can't. The entire team is actively trying to save someone and none of us are available to leave. So either you get it or I can have someone get saltines for you instead. He sighs, gets up slowly, and then says, "Fine, I guess I'll go get it then." As I turn to head back into room 1, dude literally has to turn his shoulders to slide through the massive group of people. Still pissed he has to take 1 elevator down. When they get moved to another room around 10 p.m., he's speaking loudly on the phone to someone saying things like the nurses are rude, they won't even get food for their patients, etc. The icing on the cake, she had just gotten off an insulin drip for being in a diabetic coma. Never have met a more entitled person who put having to walk and get their own food delivery above someone else's life. And now for the advice. Having literally had a patient in the next bed push the curtains back to ask if we could keep the noise down and turn the lights off while we were doing CPR on his neighbor, nothing surprises me anymore. My mother was actively dying, only a couple of hours left, and her roommate was on the phone complaining about having to put up with what was going on. The nurses couldn't move this patient as the hospital bed was locked at the time, and she was perfectly able to get up and leave the room if she had wanted to, but she preferred to huff and puff about her inconvenience. Go Ask Alice says, I've had some asshole bitch at me for his food taking too long. I was a restaurant manager and there was a guy dying 4 feet away from his super special, intentional person. He was annoyed. He wanted his food. He wanted a new drink. He wanted attention. That was nothing compared to the 9/11 thing. People piled into the restaurant, refused to pay because we're all Americans today, and trauma and whatnot. None of which stopped them from being total a-holes to the few servers that showed up. Ran my ass off for 14 hours. Tips were so small, had to pay busboys and bartenders. What a great fucking day. It cost me 3 days' pay to serve these magnificent specimens of American freedom. I've also had people lose their shit at me when a tornado came along and wiped out the power so no food could be cooked. And I was running around trying to herd everyone into the safest place in the building. Well, what about my food? Fuck off, bitch. And of course, they threatened to sue. For what exactly, I'd like to know. Nobody sued, but a whole lot of people got banned. I had to deal with my mom being a super fussy old lady for a while. She was sick. Chastised her. She got better. She wasn't dying at the time. Wasn't even feeling bad, so no excuse. I apologized to the nurses, then she did. FFS, Mom, it's just an IV. Though one did screw up the hand 4 pretty bad. 6 different tries, all just jab it in Yahoo. Mom was silently crying. She never cries, so I chastised the nurse, chastised the surgeon when they came in, and this was still going on, and got a different one. No problems after that. Don't fuck with my dying mother. If you can't find a vein, FFS, please find someone who can, okay? Please, I'm like, my mother, even if I drink 3 liters of water, you're going to have a hard time finding a vein. The shit I've gone through with this is insane. You don't need to put a 4 in my hand. But if where I tell you where everyone else has, stop shoving needles in. You're going to mess up my hand. Ow. The best place is in the top of my upper forearm. Why won't you listen to me? I've been through this before many times. I know where the needle should go. Going on to story 3. My 23 female girlfriend broke up with me, 23 male, twice, and now wants to be friends, which I don't, but we work together. My girlfriend and I have been dating for about 3 months, which granted doesn't seem very long, but it was my first relationship, so it feels a bit exaggerated. We had been working together for almost 1.5 years, and we were good friends. She had been dating someone for around 2 years, and it did not end well for her. At the time, I thought it had been over between them for months. I only recently found out that they were still talking a week before we started hooking up. At first, everything was fine and going well. I was happy and she was even happier. Fast forward to a few weeks ago. I had gone out of town for a few weeks, and when I got back, I could tell something just wasn't quite right. But I missed her so much that I was just happy to see her regardless. About a week after I got back, she told me that spending that time away, she got lonely and lost feelings for me and ended it. I was devastated and didn't know how to handle myself. 2 days later, she starts texting me again, asking me what I'm doing, asking how my classes were going, etc., which is making me go crazy. I didn't respond to a single thing she said for days. She was constantly texting and calling me, but I stayed strong and resisted. Then about 5 days after the initial breakup, she texted and told me she was outside and really wanted to talk. So I let her in and we talked. She told me that she didn't really mean what she said about not having feelings for me anymore, and for some reason said that is what she thought I wanted to hear to let me down easy. She said that she still had feelings for me and made a big mistake and wanted to get back together. I was angry at her, but all I wanted was to have her back too, so we got back together. A few days later, we got to talking one night when the conversation got turned into what each one of us wanted out of the relationship. I told her that I had strong feelings for her, but she replied by saying she was worried that those feelings were exaggerated because she was the first girl I ever truly cared about. I asked her if she even wanted to be with me, which she simply replied, "I don't know." The conversation escalated, which is when she revealed to me that she had been talking to her ex right before we got back together, which wasn't that bad to hear, but then she told me that during the few days that we were broken up, she was on the verge of contacting her ex because she still had feelings for him. That was the hardest thing that I heard, and asked her how she could be with me when she still felt that way about him, which she said I don't understand because I've never loved someone before. I told her that I wanted to end the conversation and to bring it up later because that was a hard thing to comprehend. The next night we started texting about it when she finally said that she just wants to be friends for now so that she can figure herself out, and then if the feelings were still there, later we could see what happens. She said that she felt like she wasn't ready for a relationship and it wouldn't be fair to me to keep it going for the time being. The next day, this past Wednesday, was her birthday, and she had been planning this big night out with all of her friends. There was no way that I could go and see her with the way that I felt. Through the advice of a mutual friend, I texted her happy birthday, which she then asked if I was going to celebrate it with her. I told her it was best if I don't go and that I was sorry, but just really needed some space right now. She ended up getting drunk and started texting and calling me, which, like an idiot, I answered the phone and she was telling me how she missed me and wished that I was there, blah blah. She then texted me again the next morning telling me she was sorry and that she will give me some space. For some reason it wasn't as bad this time, or at least it wasn't yet. I went out with some friends on Friday and saw her across the bar. She was trying to come up and talk to me, but her friend kept steering her away. Seeing her made me feel worse than I had yet. I felt sick and thought of talking to her made me feel even more sick. I didn't want to talk to her at all that night, and everything was fine until the next day. I got a text from her yesterday morning telling me how immature I was that I wouldn't even acknowledge her. We sent texts back and forth for hours when I got to the point where I finally told her what it does to me every time that she tries to contact me, how it just sends me deeper into a dark place. She wouldn't stop, so I just told her that I don't want to try to be friends, but she needs to stop contacting me if she wants it to happen. So she told me she was going to delete my number and I could contact her when I was ready to talk. I was talking to our mutual friend, and last night she claims to think that my ex is just upset at the fact that she doesn't know what she wants and is taking it out on me for some reason. We both still work together, however, we don't usually work at the same time. I know I'm going to have to see her on Saturday, and I'm sure she's going to come up to me. Although I'm far from over her right now, I would like to one day go back to being friends. But from everything I've read, it seems like the only way that works is if the breakup was mutual, which it wasn't in either case. I know I'm not really asking a question here, but I just kind of wanted some feedback from third parties on what to make of the situation, because right now, I don't know what to think. And now for some advice. You don't have to be friends with her even if you work together. You just need to be polite to her like any other coworker. Not overly polite, just enough to keep the work going without any drama. You don't want your relationship getting in the way of your work. You can also explain it to her that way. I'm sorry to hear that your first relationship soured so fast. I think for your own benefit, you need to tell her to stop contacting you for the time being. Explain to her that you still have feelings for her, and she's making it more difficult by constantly messaging you. She wants her cake and to have you around as a safety blanket, and to eat it to be free and explore herself. To be honest, it sounds like she is trickle-truthing you with what happened when you were gone. Girls don't suddenly lose feelings like that if they were into you. It sounds to me like she might have been in contact with her ex while you were away. But again, just an outsider perspective, and only you in your gut can know. The line "figure herself out" in my experience normally means there is another love interest in the picture. Girls tend to branch swing and don't give up on a good thing if there are no other options. I'm not saying this is always true. Sometimes girls say it to let a guy down easy, but from what I'm reading, it sounds more like she was toying with your emotions while also toying with her exes at the same time. Just take your space and hopefully in the future you can be friends. Your relationship was only 3 months long, so perhaps it could heal quickly, but you can never tell with these things. Your friendship has fundamentally changed, and it is hard to go back to a pre-romantic state. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.